representing here, we as female is standing up for our rights.
The call for the private sector to fund the fight against gender-based violence intensified, hence hashtag Sandton Shutdown.
The 1st of August was a protest around the country, marches that highlighted the scourge of violence. We marched on the union buildings, we marched on Parliament in Cape Town, we marched on Supreme Court of Appeal in Bloemfontein.
We have listened very carefully to the 24 demands that were put forward in August, and a number of those, the steering committee, as has been led by Dr. Olive Chisana in my office, is looking very closely at how best we can address and fulfill those.
Those 24 demands form the basis of the discussions that we had at the summit. And consequently, we had a national strategic plan that had 6 pillars.
The National House will continue to engage and collaborate with the department on fighting GBVF in our country.
The GBVF Response Fund 1 was born out of the urgent need to curb the twin pandemic to COVID, that is gender-based violence and femicide.
So what the women of our country are saying is not landing on deaf ears. We hear as a government, and we will live up to making the lives of our women better.
The Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities is mandated to lead on socio-economic transformation and implementation of the empowerment and participation of women, youth and persons with disabilities through mainstreaming, advocacy, monitoring and evaluation. The department initiated interventions with key sectors where faith-based community, taxi drivers, men, tackling alcohol, schools and tertiary institutions have been piloted.
It is our collective problem, men and women, all of us as South Africans, and it requires multifaceted and society-wide responses.
What we said as an organization, as the Shared Value Africa Initiative, we will create campaigns to create awareness so that ordinary citizens in the street can see how bad gender-based violence actually is.
The prevention strategy, seen as the engine of the implementation of the NSP on GBVF, was developed over 9 months through an extensive national consultation process.
Other visionary and progressive faith-based organizations with the aim of conscientizing and equipping the faith sector as a key role player in multi-stakeholder networks to implement the objectives of the NSP.
Perpetrators need to be prosecuted. And this is where our criminal justice system must come to the aid of the women of our country.
The NSP Pillar 3 is intended to address the systematic challenges that have resulted in an inadequate response to the management of the GBVF cases.
The Thuthuzela Care Center, or TCC model, is regarded as an international best practice, a one-stop model to deal with sexual offenses and GBV matters, and embodies the goal of Pillar 3, which is a victim-centered approach.
And we are also asking you to deal with these matters on a regular basis, to work with us in developing an effective response and also to come up with support mechanisms.
We have established shelters in 44 out of 52 districts, with 142 operational shelters for survivors of gender-based violence, with a bed capacity of 1,678 across the country.
The main intervention of Pillar 4 is about strengthening existing response, care and support services in ways that are victim-centered, survivor-focused and trauma-informed to facilitate recovery and healing.
One of the purposes of the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide is to ensure coordination of the efforts of different stakeholders in the fight against gender-based violence and femicide. At the local level, this is done through the establishment of local gender-based violence rapid response teams. The rapid response teams ensure that a rapid and holistic response is provided to the victims of gender-based violence and those who are affected. They also ensure that a multi-stakeholder implementation plans are developed and they are continuously monitored. Different stakeholders report back during these rapid response team meetings, and they hold each other responsible for the implementation of activities, and they mobilize support from the province in cases where there are challenges with regards to the cases and the initiatives.
This is a huge victory, a major feat, because there's been a huge shift in addressing violence against women and children.
I learned to stop pitying myself, else I would never have reached what I now perceive as my destiny. Getting women who are in denial about their situations to get a wake-up call and change their own circumstances.
A critical component of prevention strategies for gender-based violence is the empowerment of women.
For centuries, women have been and still are victims of exploitation, subjugation, discrimination, and chauvinistic customs. The catalytic role played by women in national development cannot be ignored. Hence, the various efforts that are underway in Pillar 5 to prioritize economic inclusion.
The tone has basically been set by our leaders in the country to support women economic empowerment, and commitments have been made by both private sector and government. We are therefore at an implementation stage and calling upon more partners to support this imperative agenda.
We need to invest more in research that develops evidence-based interventions to end gender-based violence.
We've been conducting research on gender-based violence more broadly, and we have also been spending over the past 20 years doing research on femicide, which is the most extreme form of violence. The project that we are conducting is really meant to provide a picture for us to understand the extent to which women are killed because they are women.
We have a problem in South Africa, and it's everybody's problem. We can no longer say that gender-based violence and femicide is someone else's issue. It affects all of us.
Gender-based violence does not benefit anyone in the long run. And in fact, it does a lot of damage to everyone in our society. Even those who think they are benefiting actually ultimately do not benefit.
It is vital for us to say the names of our perpetrators. If we did, then a lot of women and children would have still been alive today. And this seemed to become the trend in South Africa. They rape us, and then they run to courts to silence us.
We also created no excuse campaign in the country to ensure that we also target men in taverns, in nightclubs, everywhere in the country. And I think it's high time that as men of South Africa, we stand up, we confront each other, we educate each other, and we empower each other at all levels, including in rural communities.
High-level and cohesive political leadership matters and makes a difference.
Government, business, labor, and civil society organizations are urged to mainstream the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide in their strategies and annual and operational plans to ensure that they implement and account as required by Pillar 1. This requires the department to monitor whether performance agreements of ministers, premiers, national and provincial heads of departments mainstream the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide.
Let us get all South Africans moving in the same direction so that we can eradicate gender-based violence in our country once and for all.
Tobela bageshu si dikwa ga sena mano a re shumishaneng re fenye bona botlhole bo le mo gareng ga rena be polao ya basadi le bana.